you're going to find yourself getting passed by multiple cars, as I mentioned earlier on. So you are in a very precarious situation, but he often finds himself in these places. Doesn't qualify as well as he races.
Up front, they are getting with Lee Aberdeen and Luca Varani not very far apart at all here. But I just want to see how Alistair Haight deals with Marcello Kessler coming around the old hairpin.
And I would say it's not the best decision we've ever made, just not having done that under the safety car, really.
Yeah, they're taking their pit stop strategies from Ferrari lately, isn't it? What's going on?
In turn one, just too much gas on them, too much feet on the loud pedal, and unfortunately he's dropped him all the way down the order. But Philip Hammer is out in front by an 8.91 seconds. Oh, Dan Michael is a wall there, sir. And it definitely doesn't want to be hitting that earlier on as well.
Difficult, the understeer is in the dirty air through that final corner because it's such a long corner and you get dragged off into the grass very easily. He'll have the slipstream down towards the chicane. Peterson was briefly alongside, but that slipstream has saved him and kept him in third.
Yeah, Varani now lost a little bit of time to Aberdeen, about half a second. Peterson is Pike's pushed more and forward up ahead. He's got out of line. It's now Pike going to have a go. Werrell, don't push him off. He's in the championship fight. Jack Werrell chasing down Carl Jacklin. Further down, Rob Williams and Chris Barnes.
Sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's come back into play. Exactly, Miller's just like dropping. He's not a second and change. All of a sudden, Miller's back in play.
Moving on to the back end of Bill Jocelyn. So there's been a lot of movers and shakers in this first 2 laps here for race.
Absolutely serious racing league. Everybody's a lot of fun. Yeah.
It's all about the entertainment.
So I hope everybody is enjoying themselves out there in the chat. We know that Ron is enjoying himself watching the Burger King machines off into the grass a little bit there. Is it really bunching up now?
Does he have it? Medeiros is going to get it. Medeiros is going to get a chance. They haven't got it.
He's on the outside line though, going into the fastest corner on the circuit. Surely this can't work.
Dominic Ligner has got a sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly. Miller's still such trouble. He's not a second and change. All of a sudden, Miller's back in play.
Can Barry do it? Big Barry's going to do it. Big Barry!
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the JP Broadcasting YouTube channel, and once again to the iFormula League. We're here for the W13 series. A couple of weeks ago saw us take to the heart of British motorsport, and now we go to the famous Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps for round 4 of this incredible championship. And what an incredible championship it is. Coming into today, only 1 point separating the top 2 in the championship. You can see there Gianluca Iliano, after a fantastic round in Silverstone, tips the Norwegian of Haugland for first. Then comes Schilter, Franchica and Jacob Biza rounding off the top 5, and incredibly close all throughout the rest of the field, down to Frank Biza in 15th place. To talk you through all of the action here today, it's myself, Zach Sweeney, Dean Biggles alongside me here in the commentary booth. And Dean, well, once again, we are in for an absolute cracker as we battle our way through the Ardennes.
Yep, through the Ardennes Forest, of course, in a 7.03 meter circuit. I went out there and measured it personally myself.
And only 7 meters was Spa, was it?
7,000 meters.
There we go.
7,003 meters, my friend. Yes.
I was going to say, I remember Spa being a little bit longer than that, I'll be honest.
That's about the, not even the pit lane entrance. What is the speed of the pit lane entrance, my friend? 60 kilometers an hour, I believe, so they get caught speeding in pit road. Tight entrance, very tight, narrow entrance, and if you get it all wrong too, you can go actually over the wall and rolling down the hill. It's got a big, deep cliff to it. Hello in the chat.
It does. Yeah, hello to everyone watching along. Of course, on the JP Broadcasting YouTube channel, we've already got Grigor Georgiev coming in, cheering on for Max Guerrero Bizo, Bizo Racing, and Oyvind Haugland. Second place in the championship, of course. Frogwatch Racers saying Iliano's got this, so cheering on for the Italian. We are into the closing stages of qualifying, which has been spanning over the course of the last 20 minutes or so. We're into the last minute and a half-ish, and it is Oyvind Haugland leading the way as it stands. A 1:43.5 for the Norwegian to see him, as it stands, take provisional pole position. His championship rival of Gianluca Iliano rounds off the second row of the field in 4th place, so should make, hopefully, for a very interesting battle of racing. After this, we'll go into our 66% distance Formula 1 Grand Prix length. 18 laps, I believe, will be the distance before we then head our way into the sprint race, which will see a reverse grid and only, I believe, 11 laps going forward. So plenty of racing action to look forward to, and hopefully some spice in terms of that championship battle as well.
It's going to be all about qualifying here in Spa. You want to be making sure you get yourself on that front row. That doesn't necessarily mean that pole position is the absolute best as you make your way running down into La Source, because there's plenty of overtaking opportunities. Of course, you won't have that DRS activation, at least for a few laps, because that is almighty and powerful, isn't it, down the Camel Straight?
It is. Technically, it's up the Camel Straight because there is a bit of an incline going into Lake Com. And if you walk it, you'll know. Talking to Alex Goldschmidt, who has been there, I haven't. And he firmly says it's up. It's up the Camel Straight. But yeah, slipstream is going to be vitally important, as it always usually is around the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. A lot of it is spent flat out, or at the very least through high-speed complexes of corners. The famous Eau Rouge and Radion, of course, probably one of the most famous complexes in all of motorsport, definitely up there with the likes of Maggots and Beckett's and things. So yeah, looking forward to seeing how these guys do. Spa, of course, being one of the only 4 races still on the Formula 1 calendar to still be on the modern calendar, and taking to the iFormula W13 series round 4 pole position is the man that was leading the championship and is now on a bid to reclaim his throne at the top. Oyvind Haugland takes pole position and will be joined by Derek Miller on the front row. Then comes Maximilian Thiele and Gianluca Iliano, championship leader, rounds off row 2. Easton Chiappone and Roly Schilter round off row 3, with Troy Banks and Frankie rounding off row 4. Jacob Biza, Alexander Shana, the top 10, and in behind comes John Smith. Frank Biza rounds off the 6th row as well. Beyond that, it's David Robson and Marcus Adams to round off row 7, and the final of our 14 grid slots available for this magnificent race. I was about to say fantastic and magnificent all in one there, trying to invent words. I can't do that. Unfortunately, I don't quite hold the power to do so. But Biggles, I mean, we've got the man on a bid to reclaim his championship in 1st place. We've got the championship leader by 1 point in 4th, and everything in between. It should be a good one tonight.
It should be an absolute cracker of a race. Spa always does produce lots of overtaking. So, a lot of drivers are actually racing each other. Zachary, during the practice session, so getting a taste of what could be potentially, should be brewing. Yeah, Ardennes Forest. So, well, there it is. Standing starts. Big boys' toys. Fastest cars on the planet in motor racing. Let's see how they can navigate this 7-kilometer track. Yes, exactly. Over to you.
Well, we're about to get ourselves underway then for round number 4 of the iFL W13 series. And we're underway in Spa. It's a good start from pole position for the Norwegian of Øyvind Haugland, but look for Derek Miller on the outside as he tries to take the lead going into La Source. It's one of the shortest runs on the Formula 1 calendar, and it's the long way round for the American who catapults himself into the race lead. But now we start that 2-kilometer run all the way up towards Lake Com, and Øyvind Haugland is going to have the slipstream. In behind, it's Thiele and Iliano that hold firm in their 3rd and 4th places. Rolly Schilter getting the jump on Easton Chiappone for 5th, and now the run up through Overusion into Radion, then the Kemmel Kink, and up the Kemmel Straight, and closing the gap is Øyvind Haugland. Is he going to go for the move to reclaim the lead? Inside or outside? He opts for the right-hand side of the circuit into Lake Com. It's going to be 4 from Derek Miller, but not quite good enough. Øyvind Haugland, though, off the circuit.
This is good done. Exactly. He's gone off the big crucial mistake right now. Dropped all the way back down to probably P11 if he squeezes in. Oh. Yes, he does. Just like that, make a little bit of mistake in nerves on the first lap, and you've got a bit of work to do here.
You do indeed, and that is a huge mistake from pole position. Tried to swoop his way down the inside. Unfortunately, ran a little bit wide. Dirty tyres in the W13 does definitely mean trouble, and especially in the opening moments of a race like this. There are so many cars waiting for their chance to rob you of your positions, and Haugland is still tumbling down to now 13th, losing 2 further places to Robson and Adams. This hands the race on a silver platter, essentially, to Gianluca Iliano. How does that change the dynamic of the race for the Italian, though? Because on a day where Øyvind Haugland is, in a bad spot, Iliano wants to secure a decent position. 3rd place is that, but he also wants to make the most of the places that he could get, and a win on a day where Haugland is on a bad day would mean very good points in terms of the championship. Derek Miller, however, under a lot of pressure as Maximilian Thiele tries to find his way past.
He's gone way too deep into the bus stop chicane. We could have 3 into La Source. No, I think our race championship leader at the moment is going to back in behind. But here it is. Getting it turned into La Source, getting ready for one of the best parts of the Formula 1 track anywhere in the world. Here they're going to file in. I don't think they're going to be going side by side up through La Source. Oh,
yeah, look at them. Thiele under a little bit of pressure. It's leading up the hill that causes the trouble. We've got the top 3 nose to tail. What can Gianluca Iliano do in terms of getting himself potentially involved in this fight? Defensive goes Maximilian Thiele, Derek Miller to the outside. Iliano taking an idle stance, late on the brakes, and all the way around the outside goes Derek Miller. A fantastic move, but it's all for nothing. He's straight into the barrier and out of this race, rejoining the circuit into the side. I think that might have been of Troy Banks. And a very premature end after what was initially a brilliant move sees Miller already out of this race.
That's definitely heated up. This is the reason why this track is dangerous in real life, let alone in virtual racing. Let's have a look what's happened to Mr. Miller.
And then it wasn't. He just continued turning left, and the car just shatters itself into pieces. Wow, that was a big shunt. Again, what initially was an amazing move and a brilliant lead fight as well has come to an end on lap 2 of 22 here already. And well, that is a bit of a shame, to say the least. Of course, you can see there the different tyre compounds that the drivers have started on. They will have to make a swap. So do they go for softs? Do they go for mediums? Do they even strap on the hards at some point over the course of this race? It's a long one and stops up and down the field. Of course, they won't have to worry about refueling because that is banned. They're on 1 full tank to the end. But that tyre strategy around a circuit as demanding as Spa will definitely play a big factor.
Just going to see at the moment, we should be a red flag situation actually, so they're going to have to extract that driver out there after that nasty crash. I don't have to worry about that. It was actually a bit of a crash earlier too, but I will keep an eye on this battle at the moment, because here's Jacob Bizer sizing up Chipolo. You go on that one. Here we go. He's going to get the activation. Not the DRS activation just yet. What are we on lap 3? Maybe shit, the little box might appear. There it is. They both will actually get the DRS activation down in Lacombe. He's going to send it here.
He's going to think about it. He's gone to the left. He's going to be on the racing line. Not quite brave enough on the brakes though, is Biza. And at least for now, well, we'll go for Cipollone as Biza says thank you very much. No matter how you pronounce the name, finds his way past, making the most of those soft compound tyres. Of course, the Red Bull softs, the softest rubber of all three of the compounds. You've got the softs, the mediums, the hards, and what you get in pace on the softs, you lack in longevity. What you compromise in pace on the hards, you gain back in longevity, and then the mediums, funnily enough, are a nice medium between the two. They're a bit of a balanced option, but still slightly slower than the softs and slightly faster than the hards. And unfortunately, Jacob Biza is going to be, Rolly Schilter, I should say, is going to be ruining those medium tyres. A big skate across the tarmac and onto the grass runoffs there at the Piff Paff chicane, and well, finds himself down in 8th place.
Here we go for the American driver on the grid here. He's just following his teammate through here, and what just happens? There's a snap of an oversteer and had to try to correct it, and the rear's just gone around on him. Luckily, he's just off the racing line, backing up cleverly actually to allow those drivers to go through. We'll live to see another day, and that will drop, of course, Rolly down into 8th place on the grid. I'm going to go back and actually just recap some of the accidents that did happen at the start of the race. So here's what happened to Frank Weiser. This is on lap 1.
Oh, it's no name, way too much speed. Yeah.
I'm lucky he didn't actually take off the rear wing there of Frank.
Yeah.
I think, well, this is John A. Smith. This is the bus stop.
Way too late on the brakes.
Yeah. Goes out, and of course there's no traction out there whatsoever. Can't stop the car in time, turns it around. Good flick around, you'd have to say there for John Smith.
Yeah, well, it'd have been better if he avoided the mistake entirely, I suppose. But yeah, a couple of mistakes just proving how difficult these Mercedes-AMG W13s are to drive. And yeah, no traction control, no ABS, no assistance along the lines of anything other than power steering, which, you know, sort of a lot of motor racing has got anyway. But of course, these are, you know, 800 kilo cars once you put all the fuel in, and are quite heavy, quite physical at 200 miles an hour. So you can give them the benefit of having some power steering. But fundamentally, driving wise, incredibly difficult, because you've got the battery regen where the motor in the car will spin backwards, similar to kind of a Formula E car in that sense. Well, it's the exact same effect, where as you're braking, if your engine map is on, you know, high regen, it will spin backwards and could very easily potentially lock the rear wheels if you're not careful. Also with that, you've got no ABS to the rear of the car and to all of the car. So if you press the brake too hard and the tyres can't cope with the force, they will lock and spin you around as well. And then obviously you've got in excess of 1,000 horsepower going directly to, granted, quite chonky rear wheels, but still, they still have a finite amount of grip. So to light them up, we'll see you going into a bit of a pirouette, which is very easily done. Marcus Adams trying to chase down, of course, David Robson for 10th place and get himself up inside the top 10. Only 0.8 of a second separate them, and, well, crucially, within a second.
And, well, Max Verstappen, you've casted Max Verstappen before. You ever sit down and have a yarn with him?
I have.
Actually,
I haven't spoke to him.
Here is Alexander.
Not that important.
Making a run for teammate. Sensation of speed climbing away up through Rouge, and that should be a easy peasy overtake, you'd have to say, even before the DRS is activated. And then gets a DRS. Too powerful, sorry. Way too powerful, the DRS activation down Camel Straight. I've been saying that for years. But going back to Max Verstappen, well, he doesn't like these new tyre rim sizes, of course, in these modern Formula 1 cars, this version of it. Says that they're too difficult to spot your braking into your apexes and stuff like that in the corners because the tyres are too big. So I don't like the bulkiness, the heavy, more weight that they add to the car as well too compared to the previous years. That's just Max. I think most of the drivers are actually kind of feeling like that. But it is what it is. They have to slow these cars down over time eventually, otherwise we go back to those V12 periods, my friend, when they just have sheer amount of horsepower and about active suspension and all the other jazz it used to do. But once again, the Formula 1 Association has to find ways to slow the cars down, otherwise, because they just get too quick can quicker.
Yeah, but I'd love to see what teams could do. Similar to what Porsche did with their, I think it's the 919 Evo, obviously their Le Mans prototype car, where they just said the rule book and they just chucked it out. They kept the base shell of a hypercar that they obviously won Le Mans with that year, took it to Spa. They stripped all the headlights out, took out all the, they ramped the suspension up a little bit, they ramped the aero up a little bit, did all the underfloor, stripped as much weight out of the car as they could, and it actually was quicker than the Formula 1 pole time set by Lewis Hamilton in 2017 by about 7/10 of a second. So that's what Le Mans hypercars can do. Just imagine what could happen if engineers go wild in Formula 1. Marcus Adams going wild to the inside of Robson, find his way up now into the top 10 as we see John Smith into the pit lane. A bit of a calamitous stance at the moment for these guys. Owen Haugland trying to find his way through as well after previously having a bit of a mistake in the opening moments, finds himself back into the top 10 as well, past David Robson and into 10th place. The Norwegian on a charge back towards the front on that soft compound tyre.
I think it looks like those teammates were just, those other teammates you saw before were just doing switcheroos there to either conserve tyres, keep the pace up between them, and so there it is. So there's Adams just getting past by the Norwegian driver up the road, so he's slicing his way back up through the field after losing 8 places from that start that you saw. And then the other 2 drivers are just taking it easy, working with each other. Tend to see that sometimes here in the world of the Formula 1, the virtual world. A couple of drivers in the pit road. John Smith went to the pit road. Frank Beezer still in there for heavy repairs, my friend, since that start, that huge impact. You can see there's a lot of expensive damaged cars down there in pit road.
Oh yeah, a lot of damage because, funnily enough, all the materials that make up a Formula 1 car are very expensive. Carbon fibre is
Ridiculously, I presume.
ridiculously expensive, yeah.
Sorry, you cut off there for a second.
Had a moment, it's all good. Had it happen yesterday on a broadcast as well, no worries. We're all good. I think the Wi-Fi just having a bit of a dip, but we're here, we're happy, and yeah, ridiculously expensive. Carbon fibre is
It's getting
crazy.
cheaper.
Cheaper.
Yeah.
That's like saying, oh, would you rather spend 100 grand or 90 grand? Both are expensive.
Gonna save yourself some weight, my friend. And on top of it, did you know that the cars aren't painted?
The carbon bits aren't, no.
No, but the actual cars as well too. The liveries, they're not painted. It's a cheaper way. They vinyl them these days. The
Yeah,
vinyl's
well,
lighter and cheaper to manufacture and print. We just print it out in the vinyl there and slap it on. You don't have to worry about adding all those layers of paint.
It's true. Because then you run into the Silver Arrows story of where they were slightly over the weight limit, so stripped off the white paint to reveal the tin can silver underneath. And that's obviously the origin story of Mercedes as the Silver Arrows. McLaren have had to do it. Quite a few teams over the course of 2022 had to remove parts of their livery to actually save a little bit of weight. We're talking grams, right? Minuscule stuff. But when you get to the level of Formula 1 cars where, you know, grams mean time and top speed and agility and handling, it's better to save it. So yeah, McLaren obviously and Alfa Romeo, I think, to be fair, as I say, a lot of them had to strip off a little bit of that vinyl, of that livery to expose a little bit more carbon fibre, which looks pretty good, it must be said anyway. So they didn't, you know, take away much from the aesthetic side of things. Alexander Shana under a little bit of pressure from Troy Banks with less than about a quarter of a second between the two of them, closing the gap into the bus stop chicane. Under brakes, no way through for Troy Banks. We're on lap 8 of 22. The up and under there happens from Troy Banks, who picks his way past a little bit wide from Alexander Shana, who is just about going to be able to hang on going into the source. But we're on lap 8 of 22 now, Biggles. That's deep as well from Shana, just allows Troy Banks through. Lap 8 of 22, those soft compound tyres are going to be wearing. At what point are we going to be starting to think that the mediums are going to get quicker?
Maybe around now, actually. Because there's an overtake from your medium tyre runner to your hard tyre runner just then. Let's have a look at that one. Should be a straightforward. Look at that's the difference in the grip, isn't it, too? Coming out of the corner, much more confidence on the medium tyres than those softs. So that could be the answer to your question there, Zach.
Yeah, well, it will get to a point where the soft compound tyres wear quicker. Of course, they are they are on 1 lap pace quicker, but as I said earlier on, you trade the longevity for pace. So as the softs degrade faster than mediums, and the mediums obviously still degrading but slightly slower, you'll plot it out on a graph and you'll see a crossover point, and I think that's the point that we are at now. So expect to see those on the soft compound tyres come into the pit lane relatively soon to box, get themselves onto the mediums, and then go again. In all fairness, we are approaching halfway through, lap 8 of 22. When we get to 11 laps, of course, that will then be halfway through. And if they can stretch the softs that long without compromising themselves too much in terms of pace, they very easily could have a very fun medium stint, because if you can take the softer tyre half distance and then the slightly harder compound tyre in the mediums will then have to do the same distance, you're going to be able to push the mediums more because you can trust that they're not going to reach the same cliff. Into the pit lane, boom, right on time. Maximilian Thiele into the pit lane. He'll get rid of those soft compound tyres. He'll get on himself onto the mediums, and he'll continue on in a direct fight, potentially with Gianluca Iliano for the race lead. But 2 different strategies in front of the field.
And there they are. Practically all your soft runners coming in exactly on cue. So this will be the nice battle brewing up between the hard runners, essentially the net lead of this race, or the lead of this race. Maybe not the net lead of the race. We'll have to see how it all pans out later on after they take their rounds of pit stops, whether they take those rounds of pit stops a little later on. Look at the speed difference there as that letterbox opens, and bingo, job done on the overtake. I totally disagree with this. I'm going on again. I've said this before. I want a push to pass system activated. I want a push to DRS. I want them to allow, let's say, 10 uses of it in this race, for example, and you can only use it in the DRS zones currently at the moment, and you can only activate it 10 times. Either to defend, to attack, or not, but you can only use it in the DRS zones. 10 times, that's it. So choose it wisely.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Again, we touched on it at Silverstone, I think, in regards to DRS and things, but yeah, it would make sense, because not only could you use it to pass, you could also use it in defense, which is, you know, a lot of the problem that happens with DRS trains and things is that a driver closes in a second, presses DRS and goes past them, and there's not really much the defending car can do. They can go to the inside all they like. All they're going to be doing is saying, have the racing line, off you go, as you zoom past me, as if he's a sitting duck. So having that push to DRS as opposed to DRS when you're within a second of the car in front, I would also agree that it would make racing a little bit more interesting, or just have the car smaller, lighter, and you know, and then they'll be able to race a little bit better. Yes, they wouldn't be as quick, or they might not look as cool, but at least the racing would be there, the competitiveness would be there. As we've got a fight here for the direct race lead, we've got Ciaplanone and Iliano fighting for the race lead. Of course, Gianluca Iliano, the championship leader, looking to extend that gap in the championship. 1 point after Silverstone, after the Italian clinched it last time out. Haugland, again, not having a great day. So as long as Gianluca Iliano can keep it on the road and score some decent points, whether it's the win, second place, or even third place, it's going to be looking good.
Now watch this. Look at this. Up to almost 200 miles an hour. It's going to be a little bit too far back this time, but just like that, you're in the tailpipe. That's how powerful that DRS is. You'd have to say, very, very good defense there from Lestian to do that, because you've got to be just getting it perfect out of La Source, don't you? You can't afford to drop a millisecond out of that, because you're going to be under massive attack. So let's see how they pan out. And it's also whether or not you really are chewing through your tyres more as they go down into the esports line of pulling. You go right out onto the artificial grass area kind of thing. It is actually artificial grass. I don't actually show that too much in the racing sim.
Well, because iRacing and Spa, it hasn't been laser scanned in like 10 years. So it's the very old version of the Spa. I mean, you can see it on the curbing. It's not the Belgian flag. It's the traditional white and red. Derek Miller back out on track after a humongous good old shunt at the opening stage after going for a move for the lead. Finds himself spinning and backwards into the wall. And talking of how crucial a source is, that is not the way that you'd want to be going about things.
Very, La Source is actually the hotel as well. It's here that everybody stays at if you've got enough money, my friend. Hotel La Source. That's the only really hotel that's close to the track. You can see some of those houses that, of course, there, those traditional farmhouses and things like that. And I'm sure that they'd be renting them out for Airbnb on race weekends for a handful of cash. You'd probably make your whole yearly income, wouldn't you? Just on a race weekend at Spa if you owned any of those houses. What's happened here? Oh, somebody's just in the pit road, I think.
Yeah, I think, a couple of people coming into the pit lane, of course, whether that be for softs to mediums or mediums to softs. Probably won't be seeing the medium runners in the sort of the near future. If I was them, I'd be going as long as possible because, again, there's no refueling. So the car you start with, well, usually it's 100 kilos for a full distance race. So for a 50% race, it'd probably be somewhere in the region of 50. However, into the barrier, that is Troy Banks falling behind Fran Chicha of the Spaniard, who finds himself ahead into 4th place. And we'll take a look through Malmedy and just losing the rear end of the car. Too much speed going in. And the car says, nah, mate, that's not happening. So a bit of damage, of course, naturally so, but able to continue on nonetheless. But going back to what I was saying about fuel and things, I mean, usually it'd be 100 kilos-ish of fuel for a full distance race, so maybe about 50 kilos for a half distance race. That's going to be getting burnt off as the race goes on. You've got a very heavy car at the start, so have mediums on and, you know, take the deg of a heavier car and the grunt of the car not being as agile. As the car gets lighter, it will also get slightly faster because less mass, less inertia. The car wants to change what it's doing. Sir Isaac Newton wrote probably a ton of essays on it or whatever. But basically, the lighter it is, the more willing it is to change what it's currently doing. So therefore, the more agile it is going into each and every corner. If you can have a light and agile car while also being on softs, you're essentially on quali pace as Cepolone. Getting a little bit of a slide out of La Source, but that's always a thing that I like to talk about when it comes to alternate strategies, because it means that at the end of the race, you'll be light and you'll be fast.
Yep, light and fast is exactly what you want to be in a look at that car. It's destroyed. Is that Frank's car? Yes, it is. They got a lot of work to do. Very, very quick pit stop there from Troy. Now, he was the one that had a little bit of that moment, so if he's elected not to repair anything, the front wing looks okay. Kind of need that around here in Spa, that's for sure. Keep it downforce. You can drive these things upside down in the tunnel. Never been done, but has it? No, I think Red Bull hasn't even tried that craziness yet.
No, because what would happen is, in theory it'd work, but when you go upside down, you then have all of the oil drain out of the sump and flood the engine, and then also you wouldn't have any, you know, it would just completely drown the engine. I think actually F1 cars would run dry sumps, which means they've just got a little oil pan and it's constantly pumping the oil into the engine. Either way, you'd have all of the fluids, all of the hydraulics just flooding to the top of the engine, and then it would just all break. So unfortunately it wouldn't work in practice unless we get an electric engine that has enough torque and enough speed in order to produce that 150, well, more than, I think it's over a ton of downforce that Formula 1 cars make. So if we can get an electric motor to do that, then I think it's fair game.
Of course you can. Not a problem. It just depends how long you want that electric motor to last. Of course it can, no problems if you can get it to go through a tunnel. A relatively shorter tunnel. Absolutely. I've worked before on electricity is my department, my friend. Come to electronics territory. That's where master as Frankie goes in. Yeah, but obviously the battery's the biggest problem on that one, as you know. So it wouldn't go too long if you were managed to produce that sort of downforce that you're talking about.
Yeah, well, to be fair, the range on batteries is getting better. Obviously, modern day Teslas and things can go to about 400 miles or so on one battery. We've also got Franchica and Øyvind Haugland coming into the pit lane as well. The Norwegian getting rid of those soft compound tyres and onto the mediums for another go at fighting his way back through the field to minimise the damage in the championship.
To get ahead of Troy.
Adding the exit, though, the Spaniard having to relinquish the position to Troy Banks, and I think that's in an attempt to get the slipstream. Could be.
Yeah, you see drivers that will do that actually sometimes on purpose. Look at that. Does get it, but he won't get it. He does get the DRS activation. I thought the DRS activation port was earlier as he came out of pit road.
Well,
so how would you get the DRS activation?
I think there's two separate ones for the run into La Source and then the one for Origin Radion. And then the activation point is obviously after the Camel Kink, because if it was any earlier, you'd have cars with a rear wing open going 150 miles an hour through a corner. Probably not the best idea, but Fran Chicha finds his way past and up into 6th place. But a race-long battle, it must be said, with Troy Banks, and, well, still waiting for the likes of Ciapolone and Iliano to make their stops. Looking at Maximilian Thiele, though, he's already been able to gain a pit stop on the Italian. Well, yeah, 2 seconds. and Iliano still to make a stop into the pit lane. Now
he
they
comes
both
in.
come.
Oh!
Chapelone, tap of the wall, though I think he's going to get away
Yeah.
with it. But Thiele's basically, he's going to be able to run home with this race, unless Iliano, on softs, is going to fight his way back towards the lead.
That's the last two drivers at the moment to make their pit stops. Actually, no, sorry, Adams and Robertson still need to make theirs. But as they go up in the Jack, quick pit stops in Formula 1, about 2 point something seconds on average that they should be doing. In this sim, they're doing it 4 seconds. It looks like it's about 2 seconds, doesn't it? I don't know why it shows a little bit different. I don't trust these times that we get from the data about that, because I don't get my stopwatch out like that one next time. There's your gap, my friend. So as everybody's kind of done their pit stops, and there he is here. Championship leader, currently running a P5, needs to get on with it and hammer time it.
Yeah, Lewis Hamilton style. And, well, as it stands, I mean, he's going to be extending the gap in the championship. The next closest car is the Swiss of Rolly Schilter, as Frankie Francique is going to have to find his way to the outside, and does exactly that on Troy Banks, who found his way back past the Spaniard and, well, now finds himself back behind, staring at the rear diffuser of his fellow Mercedes. But yeah, the closest to the top two is Rolly Schilter on 67, which is a good 25 points back on Haugland, and therefore 26 back on Gianluca Iliano coming into this race, which is doable over the course of the rest of the season, but not ideal, as David Robson proving how tough the brake pedal is in these Formula 1 cars, and completely disregarding the way into the pit lane, I think, as the majority of drivers have done.
And right next to that wall, as I said, just goes off to a falling cliff. He's got some speed now, you can see that. Already managing to slice some time now, the Italian. Just get an idea of his lap times once he gets the full speed up after he's on his out lap essentially at this point. Where's the red? I was going to say, you have to have some red in your flag there, Mr. Italian. We all know loves pineapple on his pizza. Let's get him better a bit later for that. DRS activated there, of course. It's only a very, very short DRS activation zone. And then now, that's the detection zone right there, isn't it? That line there, Zachary. That's the one. There's one of these around here. Should know. Should know. I think we've lost Zachary again. Who is he?
Yeah, well, the DRS is open for Iliano, and he gets himself to the inside, up now into 4th place, ahead of Alexander Shana, and, well, that was easy picking. Softs versus mediums, and up into 4th place now. 4.5 up to Chapelone, and about, let's call it 6 for Jacob Biza. I think a podium is the absolute minimum for the Italian.
Absolute minimum? What's the maximum? Race win? Depending on what's going on the road, of course. Position gainers and losers so far on this one. Well, you have to give it to Jacob. Apparently running is a P2. 7 positions gained, but he's going to have a bit of problem right now, and that will be from Mr. Leston for the California number 81 machine, because he's going to be in DRS activation soon, and we all know what happens when you get in DRS activation. I'm never going to stop talking about this, am I, in Spa? Why can't we change it? I mean, we're in a race sim. We don't have to exactly copy what Formula 1 do, right? We could change it.
Yeah, but it's a simulator.
Yeah, you
Therefore, it simulates real life.
Let's make our own rules up, too.
Well, no, because then it wouldn't be a simulation, would it?
Well, the cars are simulated real. We could just simulate the rules a little. Hey, we're not doing a 100% race. So, we're not simulating that. You can see overtake done even before. Oh, no, it bogs down on the corner there because it didn't take... Because you scrub so much speed, don't you? Not taking the racing line. Oh, they're going to go side by side through Rouge. No. He wants to get that DRS activation, doesn't he? There it'll be. And
he's got it.
There. Pops it open.
Opens.
Bingo. And that's
and
medium.
Puts his foot down.
Well, it shows mediums.
No,
it's
softs.
actually softs. It's a visual aspect. Oh,
Inside
that's
line.
Oh, that's colliding.
It's contact.
Yep.
And Biza finds himself off and onto the grass, and rejoins himself in 4th place behind Gianluca Iliano. And both of them have now got 15 seconds. There's another spin for Jacob Biza as he tries to put the power down, going into Malmedy, and unfortunately gives up, is out of this race. It was the outside line initially, bit of netcode, which obviously for those new to the iRacing service, if this is your first time here, iRacing, as good as it is, the way the contact model works is it's got an algorithm, as that was him basically just slamming the right foot down and spinning the rears up. The way the contact model works is the code that's written will look at the two cars and it will make a prediction for sort of the next half a second or so. And if the course of each car is on a collision course, it will, when it gets to that point where the game essentially predicts they were going to make contact, it will show as contact even if there isn't, which obviously is a bit of a problem. But for the majority of the time, it does get it right. There are just a couple of instances where it doesn't, and that was one of them. Unfortunately, there wasn't really contact, but there kind of was in the game's idea of what was going to happen. And unfortunately, that has spelt an end to Jacob Beeser's race. However, either the father or the son, I don't know which is which. I think Jacob is the son, so maybe his father is in 12th place and continue on, albeit in the pit lane. So not being a good day for Beezer Racing, let's put it that way. But we continue on. We continue to fight, and Japolone is under a little bit of pressure now. Iliano closing in on 1.5 seconds back. Well, closing into 1 second, under 1.5 seconds back on Japolone. However, both of them making some good ground up on Maximilian Thiele.
They absolutely are. This battle as well, too. Just in and out of that DRS activation point here. Frankie just hanging in. Going to be too far back on this one because that's the problem too, isn't it? Mr. Banks has kind of got the DRS activation as well too from Alexander in P4. So that's Alexander's the one that more than anything that's going to be coming under this massive pressure, and just like that, he certainly is. As Troy's going to find a way around, and I'm pretty sure if Troy finds a way around here, Frankie might. So you got to defend the absolute life off the Lomos Esports motor machine right now, and struggling to do that, Zach.
Yeah, ever so slightly. Shana, however, into Puon, which it is most commonly named as. It has got the double gauche, which does translate to double left into Flemish or French, whichever one it is. But the right name is Puon. There's no other way about it. Plenty of different alterations of corner names here at Spa. You've got Carpal Frere, you've got Speaker's Corner, the Jackie X Corner, the no-name corner, and that's all for one corner. And then obviously, as I say, you've got Carpal Frere, you've got Stavelo 1 and 2, you've got the Piff Paff chicane, you've got the Camper chicane. So many different alterations for all of these different corners, and only a couple of them are set in stone, the likes of Lasource, Blochemont, Eau-Rouge and Radion, obviously, and Les Coms as well. But yeah, plenty of different names for corners, which have been adapted. There's also Rivage and Bruxelles as well, that hairpin just after Malmedy. I don't understand why there's so many different corners. Is that's late on the brakes from the Spaniard? What it should mean is that he gets a nice exit on the run outwards. Alexander Shana, though, making a little bit of contact with Troy Banks.
Yeah, a little bit of a nudge, a little bit of elbows out, saying I'm here. Luckily, they're pointing in a straight line when they're doing it, so no chances really of anybody going around. But this is going to be definitely spicing up at the Lacombe right now, my friend, because we could see a three-way party into Lacombe. Look at that. Actually, they're just going to murder him down the high straight because he doesn't have the DRS. Murdered. That's horrible. That's just what I don't like. I'm going to keep saying it, and I'll say it, and I'll say it until people just say, shut up, Biggles. We're sick of it.
Yeah.
We're going to change the rules, guys. I'm going to talk to the administrators. We're going to have push to pass, push to DRSs. 10 of them.
And they're going to be like, who are you?
Yeah. We'll just make it up. We can make it up on the stream. And exactly.
I don't think we could, because if by coincidence everyone is pushing to pass when they're within a second of the car in front and the car in front doesn't use it to defend, I think we could pretend all we like. We wouldn't get very far in terms of success, and would probably look a little bit silly on live broadcast to all of these fantastic viewers of the JP Broadcasting YouTube channel, of which, if you are enjoying, you should like, subscribe, and turn the bell on for notifications to not miss a single thing. Or even Howland trying to find his way side by side with Alexander Shana on the soft compound tyres inside line through Bonchemont, and the Norwegian finds his way into 6th place, which, albeit, is 5 places down from where he started on pole position, but considering where he's come from and in the final 3 laps where he could get to, P4 is on the cards here, which would completely minimise the gap that Iliano is going to gain in the championship for this race. Remember, we've also got the 11-lap sprint race just after this as well, which should allow Haugeland to maybe make amends for what has been a poor feature.
And those drivers as well, too, that are out. Both the visors are out. Here we go again. Another run. Look at that. It's just like you're going up against an F3 car. They're just swapping places tooth and nail. It's great. Nothing that the likes of those drivers up the road need to do anything about it. We're just going to see whether or not the Italian mastermind in the number 11 car running in P3 has got enough pace. He's down to 1.2, so as soon as he gets inside that DRS zone, he's going to have a chance to take a P2. Time's not on his side so much just yet.
Well, he's only got 3 laps left to do it. Less than, actually. Hang on. Let me look at the specific thing, because it always trips me up. You know,
It's 4 laps.
It's always, it's the difference plus 1, isn't it? Yeah, that's, yeah. I'm tripping, honestly. But Maximilian Thiele is about to round off and finish lap number 19. So I think we're about to start 3 laps to go, which we are. The 34 machine out in front on the medium tyres, being chased down by Chapelone, though. 7 seconds in 3 laps. That last lap for Thiele was a 48.8. Let's see what Chapelone and Iliano can do across the line. We'll see it refresh. A 47.2, 1.6 seconds quicker is not quick enough for them to catch. However, if they get within, what will they need? They need... Thiele has just DNF'd. Is that a disconnect? Is he out? Is that real?
Yes, that's a disconnect.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Because we can't see his car anywhere on the track.
Please come back. Please come back. Maximilian Thiele, please come back.
And the problem is, of course, is that the AI doesn't drive for you like it does in some of the other racing sims. So if the AI drives for you, it drives obviously at a lot slower rate, but at least for a short little disconnection like that, you might be able to still go. But this is where the battle's still boring here, as we've essentially lost our race leader. Whoa! I think that's quite wise, wasn't it, to go off to the runoff area straight through. They're really battling it out tooth and nail. That's Troy Banks having to take to the escape road there as he gets a little nudge. I think there's something brewing up here with these drivers. There's Zach. Let's see what's going to happen when you get into the sprint race.
Yeah, let's wait. Because these guys have been on it from lap 1 today. It's been a very entertaining race. Silverstone did get a little bit dull at some points. That obviously goes without saying. But here at Spa, they have brought their A game. Heartbreak, though, for Maximilian Thiele, who was dominating this race and, in all fairness, looked good to win. But with 2 and a bit laps left to go, it's Easton Chapelone, I should say. We'll be able to flow with that quite nicely. Give us 2 more rounds and we'll be able to say that 100% of the time. We've been all right today. Not perfect, but we've been all right. Chapelone, if you are watching, and we're saying it completely wrong even when we're trying to be confident with it, let us know and we'll do our best. And hopefully not offend you too much. But being chased down, the Californian, by the Italian of Gianluca Iliano. At 1.6 seconds is the gap with 2 to go. He needs to get half a second to get within DRS, and then it's race on.
I don't think he's going to be able to. I think he might be comfortable. Always difficult to say, but just sit back, relax, and enjoy yourself. Some bubbly stuff, and P2 on the podium is always good. And of course, that's a chunk more points in his championship lead that you need.
Well, it'll be 2 points gained for Iliano at this point.
That's a chunk.
Which,
chunks too.
actually,
depending on what you do.
fastest lap gets you 1 point as well. Does pole position? No, pole position don't get you any points. So it's actually only going to be 1 point gained for Iliano.
He's had a crash again. This is not the same one. Remember, before he got a little pushed off, and I think the frustration is creeping in. He's going to lose the rear around here. Well, as Winston Churchill said, my friend, never give up, never surrender. I wouldn't do that just yet. Finish the race.
We're not fighting on any beaches today.
Yeah, in the sand traps, in the gravel trap. But you got to remember, just, there's another race coming up, so live for that one. Try to get some points in that one, and I wouldn't write this one off. I mean, he is down to P7, as in P6, sorry, my apologies. He still gained a position, so we look at that on paper and go, well, I've moved forward, not backwards. I'll take that. But man that's moved forward 4 places is Chapelone.
Yeah, 2 seconds clear now of Gianluca Iliano. 1 lap to go, though. Barney the flagman, the strongest left arm in sim racing, will wave the white flag before all of the cars cross it, and then he'll be waving the checkered flag for this man right here, Easton Chapelone. Well, 7 kilometers, well, 7.004 kilometers, I think exactly, he's got to drive of the circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, and he'll be able to take victory.
You know those people have to measure all those brake markers, the 50, the 100, and all that. I wonder if anybody ever cheekily just says, you know what, I'm going to make it 49 meters. It's not in meters, it is in meters, yeah. I'll make it 49 meters, just move it a little bit when nobody's looking. It's just the brake markers, could you imagine that? Who checks it? Who checks the checker? You think there have to be somebody come around the track every day, of course, no doubt, on a race weekend, and literally measure them. Then who checks the person that's checking it to see if they didn't accidentally do it by mistake? And then, of course, the drivers and because Formula 1 drivers would instantly know, hang on, there's definitely something wrong with that corner because I'm breaking at the usual 50 marker and all of a sudden I'm having issues. How long do you think it'd take a driver to figure that one out, Formula 1 driver? I think, what, just one lap? Or they'd notice something sus? Are we talking about a meter too? So instead of 50 meters, make it 49?
Well, these cars travel a long distance in the span of a second. 200 miles an hour in meters per second is 89 meters a second. So, you know, they're probably going to be braking, you know, a little, you know, they'll notice the difference because of how fast they're traveling. Yeah, but that's, you know, the person who has been able to nail each and every single one of his braking points to date for the feature race of the iFL W13 Championship here at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps is Easton Cipollone, who leads the way 1.6 seconds clear of Gianluca Iliano. The Italian extends his championship lead only by 1 point. Oyvind Haugland from pole position has had an amazing recovery drive after falling down to last place after a spin in the opening moments, finds himself back into third and minimising the gap in the championship. Franchica and Shana round off the top 5, then comes Troy Banks, Adams, Miller, Robson and Schilter to round off the top 10 here in Spa. Of course, don't go anywhere because in a few moments' time we'll take our way to this sprint race as well, which should hopefully have quite a bit of drama as well.
I would imagine it will, because it's a sprint race, less time, and there's going to be some, you know, some blood brewing between some of the drivers, of course, so that are out for potentially revenge. Hopefully not so much of the revenge, of course. So these drivers are probably, you know, we build up the excitement, don't we, with really, we kind of script a story that's probably not even there with the drivers down there. But we do it up here going, oh, you know, there's going to be this big action. There's going to be elbows out. These two, put them in a boxing ring right now. They're going to go at it. And of course, if you listen to the drivers, they're like, oh, that's fine. We're just having fun. That's what we do, isn't it, Zach? It's any very time soon. We get those race results up for you. Official race results. Let's check with the FAA. And here it is, my friend. Should be up there in a second.
Here we go then. After 22 laps of racing action here at Spa, it was Easton Cipollone taking his first victory of the season. A brilliant display of racing action, perfect strategy and great consistency. Championship leader Gianluca Iliano able to extend the gap by a singular point ahead of his Norwegian rival. Oyvind Haugland rounds off the podium with the Spaniard rounding off the top 4. Then comes Alexander Shana in 5th. Troy Banks, Marcus Adams in behind with Derek Miller, David Robson and Rolly Schilter, the top 10. Maximilian Thiele unfortunately registered as a DNF after a frank disconnect from the race with only a handful of laps left to go. Then comes John Smith and the two Beezers in 13th and 14th. Unfortunately, again, neither of them having the best day in the office either. But nonetheless, Biggles, it was a very entertaining race.
And it will be entertaining, no doubt, for this next race coming up. Now, any information that anybody could provide us with that is just a complete disconnection or something like that we had potentially from our race winner that did not manage to get it finished. Just want to know, or once again, a cat's jumped across there and got stuck, or pulled the cable out of the computer. A racing sim, anything like that's happened. I do suggest, you're not on Wi-Fi, are you, Zach?
Ethernet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you said your Wi-Fi dropped out before. I was like, that's the reason why.
Well, I did. Well,
yeah.
Broadband, Ethernet. It's whatever. Had a moment, but we're all good. It has that. It's just little blips and then it works again for the rest of the evening. So we're all good.
Yeah. UK internet, that's just like that. All right. And on top of it, well, And also recommend getting a UPS out there. I'm uninterrupted the power supply. I'm surprised so many people don't. If you get a little power surge, it only takes a little bit of power surge that drops your voltage down under the threshold. Most of it's AC voltage, of course, so it will flux up and down a little bit if you're on 240. Or some of the drivers here in the Americans will be on 110 volts. So, you know, there's a certain level that your power supply and your racing rig and your computer are gonna take before they're just gonna click over and not power essentially the components, and therefore it's gonna freeze your computer, or it's gonna freeze your system, or lock your steering wheel, or any of those other devices that you have plugged. They're more flexible than a computer is. But then your computer's gonna lock up and freeze and crash. So by getting yourself a UPS, an uninterrupted power supply, it has a brilliant filter clicked into it. So even if your power surge does that, it'll click over to the battery, protect for a second or so, and then click back to the mains and protect your computer from doing that. So get a small one out there. You don't need a battery that's going to run your computer for like an hour or two like I have. If you don't have electricity problems all the time, you just need something to filter it. That's all. It's more of a filter than anything. And will protect that from happening, especially if you're doing these races, aren't you? Especially, you know, you're leading a race, or even in your endurance race there, Zachary. You know, a lot of runs 6-hour endurance, 9 hours endurances and stuff like that. And you want to make sure that your computer ain't going to crash during that time.
Oh, yeah. Plenty of times I've seen that happen, where it's just like, oh, brilliant. Yeah, cool. Leading the race by half a minute, and then kaput. And then you're half a minute behind by the time that you can actually even realize what's been going on. So, yeah, keeping your hardware in check is always a good thing.
Well, especially when people spend thousands of dollars on racing rigs, and I've asked them, like, do you have a UPS? They're like, no. I'm like, well, that's the first thing you should get. Just in general for your computer to protect it.
Yeah, secure your bases. Yeah. I mean, it's the same when people start modifying their cars and stuff as well. They're like, oh yeah, as soon as I bought it, I bought these huge subwoofers, these massive bassy speakers, and they're like, and then you ask them, but did you upgrade your brakes and your tires, and do your seatbelts work? And they're like, nah. And you're like, well, you've got these speakers, but all you're going to be able to do is listen to Taylor Swift while you're wrapped around a tree after smacking into it 100 miles an hour. And they're like, well, whatever. It's the same thing. Secure the fundamentals first, and then build. Because if you try and build a house with wonky foundations, it's going to very quickly crumble. So yeah, the drivers have to be.
And tire pressures. That's a key thing. I'm surprised all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Like, and this is what actually amazes me here in Panama. This is once again, I think it comes down to a lot of the education system, that there isn't much, unfortunately, like vocational courses and stuff like what you're doing. At the moment, they hear it from somebody else, and that somebody else they hear it from. So that's the kind of thing that, you know, what happens when you're passing down education like that. You can easily pass down education that's wrong.
Oh yeah.
And what's happening is that
Chinese
when they go, every time you get tire pressures, they'll do it. It's kind of like a self-service thing here, so that people pull in, and they know these guys will pump your gas for you, and they'll check your fuel, your oil levels, and your tires and stuff like that. And I go, how do you know the tire pressure? It's like, oh, it's 32 or something like that pounds. I was like, for all cars? No. You got to open up the door, and usually inside the door there's a little label there, and it tells you what your tire pressures are for each of the. Let's go through the grid actually real quick there before I start yabbling on about that.
Well, the 32 for like smaller cars. It's a decent figure to go with. John Smith though will be taking pole position ahead of Maximilian Thiele, who is going to be looking for redemption after a disconnect in the feature. Rolly Shilter, David Robson, row 2, with Derek Miller after a crash fighting for the lead, rounds off the top 5. Marcus Adams will join him on row 3. Troy Banks and Alex Shana the top 8. Then comes the Spaniard of Francorchamps in P9, and Oivan Haugland looking to fight his way forward in this race to try and get some points back on Gianluca Iliano, who will be directly alongside him, just a little bit back, 9 meters and to the right of his Norwegian rival Easton Chapelone, the top 12, with the 2 DNFs of the Beezers making up an all Beezer racing team, row 7. We're moments away from getting ourselves underway for another set of racing action here at the circuit, the Spa-Francorchamps. And, well, Biggles, it's a sprint race, and hopefully we're in for some good fun.
Should be in for some good fun, and don't worry about those tyres, because pit stop is not required, so I imagine everybody will be on the soft tyre compounds. Here we go!
Here we go. We're underway, and 7 laps on the count And it's a good start from pole position from Smith, but an even better one from Rolly Schilter, who darts his way to the inside, a little bit wide from John Smith, sees Derek Miller potentially take to the inside as well through La Source. It's absolute carnage in behind as Tile Biza and the other Biza are already out of this race, not even taking to the start. John Smith, though, will be in second place as they climb up through Eau Rouge, over the crest of Radion as well, side by side through Eau Rouge and Radion between Troy Banks and I think David Robson as well. Now the battle as they ascend the Kemmel straight in towards Les Combes, ducking, diving, weaving all over the place, trying to find even a pocket of air in the slipstream, and Troy Banks is able to hang on to 6th place. Oyvind Haugland already up 5 places inside the top 5. Meanwhile, his championship rival of Iliano only up 1 into the top 10.
Here comes Troy Banks again on the move. As also in the background, here we go. Chiapoli, he's going to take it around the outside. That's going to be bold and brave, my friend. There is the wall there. The tank slapper does manage to keep it back on the track. They keep the rear end as he's right next to the Italian driver. He's gone too wide again, has to yield that position. And he's still up 2, currently running in P10.
Yeah, decent start for the pair of them, but Haugland up in 4th place is going to be loving life by the fact that he's as it stands gaining himself a decent chunk of points ahead of his rivals in behind. It's Alexander Schane on the back of the Norwegian, looking very menacing, but is he going to use the slipstream of Haugland to catapult his way maybe into race winning contention? Lap 1 of 7 is in the books, and it's the Swiss of Rolly Schilter that leads the way ahead of Derek Miller and Oyvind Haugland, both of which are looking to redeem themselves after a poor race 1.
Oh, exit out of here. This is going to be a drag strip down into La Source. We'll take the different racing lines. You can do the switchback, a little bit of a lock up there. Actually, it was a little bit of a lock up there from John Smith, who's going to be under massive pressure here. Here we go. I do want to see side by side up through Rouge. Come on, boys. Oh, riding on board. That's a sensation of speed, isn't it? Oof. That's got to feel good, even if you are in a sim world. Taking candy from a baby with that one. That's not even with the DRS activated yet either. I didn't think he wanted to be a part of this, my friend, just yet. Oh, nowhere to go!
Oh, big crash! And Iliano carves his way through the carnage, straight to the left. Spider-Man reaction times of that one for the Italian. He finds his way into 6th place, but a huge crash between Schane and Robson sees both of them out of contention. We're going to take a look as to what happened. Alexander Schane tucking him behind, but I think a spin just in front of him. There's no way that he's got enough time to react to that.
Watch this. T-bone at high
and
speed.
Then
oh.
Straight into the side of Schane was Robson. And Iliano, to be fair to him, did a really good job of finding his way past. Very impressive, but...
Well, look at how scary this will be at the moment. We're going to be on board right there with David. This is the reason why Spa's a very dangerous track, even in the virtual world. That in itself would definitely probably be close to a medical emergency if that was in real life. Thankfully, that's why we have the racing sims. That's where the cars aren't designed. Well, they have an impact barrier, damage zone there, obviously to impact, to try to absorb the impact, but still, there's only so much you can do, isn't it, on the side of a modern-day Formula 1 car or any open-wheeler at that speed. Yeah.
I mean, the survival shell, the monocoque of the car it'll save you. It's essentially designed to take the impact of one huge crash. So, they both should have been fine. If it was real, of course, it's fine. They can just go back to the pit lane, reset, and go again. John Smith, however, will not be going again in this race. Straight back to pit lane, doesn't even give his car enough time to stop. As Oyvind Haugland is on the back of Derek Miller, closing the gap bit by bit, not quite into Les Combes. But you can definitely bet your bottom dollar that Oyvind Haugland is going to be looking for a move past sooner rather than later. Also, with Haugland and Iliano separated by just 3 points in the championship, and only by 3 positions in this race, it will be matched in terms of the championship lead, because the way it works for this race is that for each position is a points difference. So first gets 12, second 11, all the way down to 12th place with a 1 point interval between each. You get 1 point for fastest lap, you get 1 point if you have a race with 0 incident points. As it stands, Oyvind Haugland has got the fastest lap of the race, so will be leading the championship by a singular point if Iliano doesn't make any progress forwards.
It's certainly going to show you how close this championship is definitely heating up. Just a couple of points separating, as you said, it's fantastic. And out there is the reason why it's possible to rejoin and disconnect when you're reading through your messages. Zach's been replying to you. I had problems last week, if you're aware of that one, of course, accidentally joining the session, and I could not exit from the session at all when it was on, so I'm not quite sure why you can't rejoin. Too late now, of course, fortunately, but it is a good question. You check it out with the peers here at the Racing League after they finish and get out of their cars, because we're down to, Mr. Zachary, 4 laps to go.
Yeah, not long to go at all, and that's the point of a sprint, funnily enough. It's a sprint to the finish, so you haven't really always got long to do things, which is why Øyvind Haugland is like a rocket ship. You know, you've lit the fuse on the firework and you run and you hide, because Haugland is a man on a mission in the DRS of Derek Miller and will be closing the gap. Is he going to go to the inside for Lecom? Is he close enough to go for the inside to Lecom? I don't think so. I think there's a mutual agreement here potentially. I mean, on that last lap, no, it can't be, because Miller is slower than Schilter at this point. If I was Haugland, knowing that there's not a lot of time left in this race, but knowing you're the quickest driver on track, get in front of Miller and get after Rolly Schilter.
Yeah, that's time, and this is it. The only time right now to get on with it. Because remember, Mr. Banks at the back has also been very, very fast, so I wouldn't be surprised if Mr. Banks doesn't catch up to them very, very soon if they're battling that's going on. It's about 2.7 seconds, and then of course you got Frankie with a couple of the DRS cars behind him, and see the Italian driver you'd mentioned before that wants to gain that place, and he should be able to do it with that DRS advantage. But keep your eyes peeled, of course, here on the Norwegian driver, because this is where you said he's got to get something done practically on this lap or early in the next. It's going for it.
Outside line into the braking zone. Øyvind Haugland, it was good. It's not quite good enough. Sends Miller in deep. They might go for the double up and under. If you can have a bit of a look, they reach the DRS activation point, but Haugland's not quite close enough really to mount anything going into La Source, which, as we say, doesn't really want to. But look at the track usage from Miller. Bit of a lock-up from him in all fairness, but he still gets the drive off the corner. And as I say, it's a 2-kilometre, slightly uphill run. Well, massively uphill through Overreach and Radion, then a slight uphill incline in towards the braking zone of Lecom. So Haugland will be having a huge advantage with the slipstream and now the DRS as they cross the Camel Kink. He's closing at a rate of knots, pulls out to the right-hand side, and Øyvind Haugland finds himself into second place with, well, 3 laps to go for the iFL sprint race here for round number 4 of their W13 championship. It's Schilter from Haugland, Miller, Banks and Francorchamps at the top 5. Iliano, though, within a second and looking to stabilise the points deficit in the championship. And well, he either needs to get the fastest lap or make up, he needs to get the fastest lap and make up the place on Francorchamps if he wants to equalise the points in the championship.
I've got a feeling that they're going to go around the outside of Francorchamps, coming up to the Camel Straight at some point soon. If they both get a good exit out of La Source, that's going to be the key. We saw it earlier, didn't we, in the feature race? Now, this is actually the sprint race, so apologies why it's showing a feature. It is a sprint race. That's because generally, I think most of the time they're expecting you to do your sprint race before the feature race. But we're flipping things around here at the moment there, Zach. So we're not sticking to the absolute book of simulating the real F1. I got you on that one again, didn't I? We can change the rules a little bit.
Yeah. But DRS is a fundamental of Formula 1 cars. You can't just start strapping different front wings to it in an effort to improve the racing. You know, because that's in the same vein as a bit of a slide, as we say, 1,000 horsepower going to the rear end of these cars. Øyvind Haugland, though, might have a chance at the race lead. He took 1.5 seconds out of Rolly Schilter on that previous lap, and with just 2 laps left to go, the gap is 1.6. He's bringing Derek Miller with him. So, could we see Øyvind Haugland take the win? I wouldn't say it's too far-fetched.
Oh, no, you're right. He just has to continue to do that pace that he has at the moment, and then he'll be in that side of the DRS range. So, just like this, Iliano's going to be probably thinking about behind. And he will. He's defending with that DRS. That's the beauty of the DRS, of course, because he can defend with it at that point, because he has a DRS. But as soon as he gets ahead there, Frankie, then he's going to be the sitting target. Is he happy just to sit here and wait until perhaps the last lap to then give it a shot so they don't have enough time to come back with a DRS? That's what I have seen before in leagues with drivers in Formula 1, because of that very reason. Don't get me started about the DRS again.
Yeah, well, it's the same with James and Blue Flags. Don't get him started on a lot of things. Don't get Biggles started on a lot of things, because that means you'd have to listen to him for longer than you have to, and we don't want that. No, I'm joking. No.
All right.
All jokes
Just going
aside.
to mute the co-caster here at the moment of Zachary. Sorry, Zachary, we can't hear you. What was that? Thank you.
Oh, well.
I don't have the powers that be. No, great. Great. Going for that Simi Award again. Hopefully this
Yes,
year.
by insulting everyone.
Yeah.
Ruin their confidence so that I win. No, I'm not that much of a... what's the nice way to put it? There isn't one. I'm just not that guy with a massively inflated ego. As Easton Chapelone looks to the inside of Iliana, but no way through as it stands. Onto the final lap of the race here, and Schilter only leads by 1.1 seconds clear of Oyvind Haugland. But they're running out of DRS zones to use. If Haugland's not within the DRS zone going through into Les Combes, I don't think he's going to be able to get this win.
No, you're right on that one. I'd say so. Because we are on the penultimate lap, so I just want to keep an eye on these guys as they're going to battle their way up to down to the Camel Street. Not too far back. Here we go. Hold on tight. Get your popcorn.
Well, he's going to find his way 3 wide nearly and straight through the middle. Chapelone looking to the inside of Iliano, but they both find their way into the top 5. Schilter and Haugland only separated by 3/4 of a second, though that fight for the lead could come down to the wire. Oh, what's going to happen? There is the Californian leading the way. Then the 125 Mercedes W13. Oyvind Haugland closing the gap. How much energy has he got in reserve in order to push for the lead? Half lap left to go, and it comes down to this.
He's going to have to push. He could be trying to force a mistake into the bus stop. And a last-ditch effort. That's what I'd have to say Haugland needs to do at this point. He needs to sit back and just put the pressure on. Rolly here should probably be okay. He's just got to sit there and don't mirror drive. Just focus on trying to hold him off as much as possible. Focus on your perfect braking points into the bus stop chicane.
The lead.
You got to stick to it, but he might not have got it.
I don't think so. It's going to be brave on the brakes. Rolly Schilter tries to defend, but it's not quite good enough. It's Oyvind Haugland after a disappointing race one. A great redemption drive since, though. And in the sprint race, he catapults himself up so many positions to take victory here at Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. Rolly Schilter defended for all of his might and led for the majority of that race, but it wasn't quite enough. Derek Miller rounds off the podium with Troy Banks in the background as Francorchamps has a bit of an issue across the line. Or that's Gianluca Iliano, actually. I think it is.
It is.
They've had an incident, the 3 of them, in that fight for 5th, and none of them have been able to get away scot-free. Gianluca Iliano will be losing 6-7 points from this race, which would give the lead in the championship back to Oyvind Haugland, and this is how it happened. Chapelone going for a gap that arguably didn't exist.
Just like that, isn't it? On that last corner of the last lap. Can't even get it across the line. Oh, then there's a driver slowing down at the moment there. So that's sportsmanship, as we've seen this before, isn't it? He's going, okay, he's going to give the place back. Look. Or they're not going to agree as to who's going to take it. So there it is. Oh, wow. I think he's just, that's great sportsmanship. He's just like, nah, mate. Nah, it's fair. It's fair. So you take it. And let's go over to your Heat 2 results, actually, for your feature results, actually, not the feature one. Is he going to get there?
Yeah, well, 7 laps of racing action see Oyvind Haugland. Well, once again, the tides change in the championship, and it's the Norwegian back on top, just 4 points clear of Gianluca Iliano. Rolly Schilter, Derek Miller round off the podium with Troy Banks and Frankie Franchicha, the top 5. Then comes the race 1 winner of Easton Chapelone in 6th, Gianluca Iliano, Marcus Adams, 7th and 8th. Robson and Shana, the top 10, with Smith, the last of those that took to the grid. Then comes Maximilian Thiele and the 2 Beezers, who didn't quite take to the start of this race. Biggles, what a fantastic display of racing action it was, and well, let's bring on the rest of the season.
I never like 100% Formula 1 races anyway, here in the real world, so the 6% length was fun. But also, you got to like those little sprint races. They really throw a spanner in the mix, don't they? I mean, you take it out, the pit stop strategies on it, and it's just go. I love the format. It's completely different. Yes, right, it's different than the real F1. And it's great. And just like that, you got a second chance for drivers to come through and do some performances getting some more extra additional points that they can get that they didn't get in the feature race but we still like the feature race having its strategy calls for tyres. Let's find out if we can talk to any of those drivers about that.
Yeah, well, first up, we've got Mr. Oyvind Haugland. Hello, sir. It must be said, it's been a decent couple of races for you. I mean, race 1 probably didn't go the way you'd have expected it to. Talk us through that opening lap and then your road to fighting your way back through, because it was a mighty recovery.
Yeah, I got to start off by apologizing to Derek for my my dive there. I thought I was going to be no problem, but I didn't take into the consideration the cold track. So I almost ruined this race. So apologies for that. And then I think I touched. Frank Bisa touched into me because I didn't know if I had damage. So I started off by just saying sorry for that. That was such a rookie mistake. But after that, I just decided to go a double soft stint and just try to push pretty hard, and then try to catch up to the pack when I got to the pits. And then I just saw that a couple of guys were pitting quite early. So then I was like, I got my hopes up a little bit because the tires really get a beating on this track. And then we had some luck. I saw Maximilian lost internet, which that's a shame because he was like flying today. But I'm very happy. I got away really easily there. I could have been so much worse. But there was nothing to do with the guys in front though.
Yeah, you had a brilliant race. And then obviously that sprint race, you just carved your way straight through the pack, up 9 places to taking victory. And with it, you reclaimed the top of the championship. I mean, that battle between you and Gianluca, I hope it goes down to the wire, because surely you're loving the thrill of being that close to each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's such a good racer too. And there's been some unlucky guys driving here as well. So I think that like less than Maximilian and some of the other guys could come up too. But I really hope it's going to be a really close battle. It seems like we end up in incidents every second race, so we haven't really got the opportunity to really like race one-on-one yet. So I'm really looking forward to that, and I'm glad it's going to be tight. So that's going to be a lot of fun for the rest of the season.
It should be. We're looking forward to witnessing all of the action in a couple of weeks' time, though. Actually, in a week's time, we'll go to France for the Circuit Magny-Cours for round number 5. How are you feeling about your chances there? Are you optimistic? Maybe you're going to be able to extend the championship lead once again?
I think we should run the Williams car there or something. So we have a car that's suited for the track. I think it's going to be really tight, and I think it's going to be absolutely crazy. But I look forward to it. I haven't raced that much on it, but usually when the tracks are bendy, I race pretty well. So that should be fun to see how we can do there. If there's some French people racing, they're probably going to be amazing at that track.
Yeah, probably. Who have we got that's French? I don't think that anyone is. I think you're in the clear. I think we're clear.
Oh, that helps a lot.
You'll be all right. You're going to be good.
And we're also going to introduce, because I've been talking about this, we're going to introduce push to DRS. So you're going to have 10 of those that you're allowed to use during the main race to defend or attack. No,
if only it was.
I'm trying to implement it, but it's not going to happen anyway.
I think that's a great idea, to be honest.
See,
for that track for sure.
Yeah.
I didn't disagree with you. Yeah. I just said it's probably not going to happen.
Let me do some coding in the back end there, and I'll get that sorted out.
Yeah. I would appreciate that very much.
Yeah, well, you benefited a lot of the DRS today, I think, Haugland. I think you used it a couple more times than 10 on your fight back through the field, so we'll see. But before we let you go, is there any shout-outs you want to give in the YouTube chat?
Oh, I miss my teammate. He needs to get back. If my teammate Jair, he needs to get back on track. I know he's been busy. So and also thank you to Rolly. Such a shame he got a little bit unlucky. So I think really he had the pace to keep me behind, but I got lucky when he made a mistake. So thank you, Rolly.
Yeah. You obviously don't feel that bad, considering you took the win from him anyway, but that goes without saying. Very well done to you today, Oyvind. Take care, and well, hopefully we'll see you back in a couple of weeks' time.
Yes, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Take care. Oyvind Haugland then was the race winner of the sprint race, P3, and the pole sitter for race number 1, and also now becomes the championship leader, Dean Biggles. What a race we had today. And in a week's time, we do it all over again in France.
Absolutely looking forward to it, of course. Yeah, Magny-Cours, great track in France. So we'll see how that's going to pan out. Only way to tune in, of course, is to hit the like bell and subscribe and keep your eyes peeled. Thank you, everybody out there, of course, for being in the chat there and supporting your drivers, your friends. Unfortunately, of course, we do have some of the drivers, as you mentioned, that had internet. That's something you can't really do about. Now, obviously, I understand electricity, but internet go dropping out, mate, yeah. Unless you get enough money and you can actually have one of those fancy routers that have 2 internets that plug into it, so one goes down, it'll switch to the other. But just like normal, every one of us, we don't. It's been fun. It's been a pleasure, Zach. You want to wrap it up? Say goodbye.
Yeah, indeed. So, well, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, that will, as Biggles said, bring an end to our coverage of the iFormula League W13 series. We've been live here from the Ardennes Forest, the Circuit de Spa Francorchamps, for round number 4 of this brilliant championship. Tomorrow, if you want more of the iFL stuff, they'll be here for round number 4 of their Formula 3 championship. I believe it's going to be James Parfitt and Kenton Sportak potentially in the commentary booth to talk you through all of the action. Silverstone was a blast for those Formula 3 guys, and will continue tomorrow evening for those in the UK. For myself, Zach Sweeney, Dean Biggles, we thank you for watching along in the YouTube chat. Do make sure you have liked, subscribed, and turn the bell on for notifications to not miss a single thing that comes your way when it comes to sim racing. But from us in the commentary booth of the iFormula W13 series, we'll see you in a week's time when we head to France.